Football is back. The Eagles are on the field as they prepare to take on the Tennessee Titans in preseason game 1. You're watching the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. Amy Campbell here alongside Fran Duffy. We are going to be taking you all the way up until kickoff. We got a lot of treats for you tonight. Fran, the preseason is here. Football is back. I can smell the grass even though we are not in the actual stadium. We are in a studio, but I can still smell it. What are you most excited about for this season?
Well, I guess really, like, if you're going to look at training camp as like Christmas morning as you're running down the steps,
yes,
it's not quite opening up that first big gift, the first preseason game, but it's like going into your stocking. Like,
right.
I'm really, really excited for football to be back. The live action starts tonight, and it's a very talented team. We've watched them all summer long here at training camp. I'm excited for the live action here tonight.
My mom would always let us open one a couple days early, so maybe that's what this is, the early present. There's a lot of players I'm really excited to see. We're going to start with our offensive picks. For me, it's DeSean Jackson, who is a guy very familiar to Eagles fans, but as a newer Eagles fan, I am so excited to get familiar with DeSean Jackson and what he has to offer. We've been hearing about him all preseason long, his connection with Carson Wentz. The two have just been raving about their chemistry, and of course, he's so excited to be back in Philadelphia. I am so excited to see him, especially this preseason, after all the hype I've been hearing, to really get to see him on the field in an Eagles uniform. Friend, when it comes to offensive players, who are you most excited to see this preseason?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy that, 3.5 months ago, you and I sat at this exact same desk in this studio when the Eagles drafted Miles Sanders in the second round out of Penn State. And to me, you look at Miles Sanders, he brings a different dynamic quality than what we've seen from the other running backs in that backfield this summer. So whether it's in the passing game, whether it's in the running game, he's got the ability to bring an extra dimension. I don't know how much of that we're going to see this summer, but I think ultimately when you get to week 1 and you get to the regular season, I'm really, really excited just to see how Miles Sanders looks in an Eagles uniform.
And of course, here's a look at his numbers. Really impressive college stats. Of course, a guy that people didn't know too much until Saquon Barkley left, and he patiently waited his turn. And man, did he have a great career there. A really electric player, a guy that Eagles fans can be really excited to see. Of course, we've heard all preseason long about him as well. Let's shift to the defense. I am most excited to see linebacker L.J. Fort, a position group with a lot of opportunity with the injuries, with the departure of Jordan Hicks. He's a guy who's going to have plenty of opportunity this preseason, and a guy who I'm really intrigued by, who kind of worked his way up the depth chart there in Pittsburgh as a special teamer, had a couple of starts there at the end of the year, but man, he's bounced around a lot in the NFL. Quite the story, Fran. He's been released, waived, or cut 14 times. The Eagles are his 7th team. Fun fact about him, though, his rookie year in Cleveland in 2012, he made 1 start. It was against the Eagles. He had 1 interception. It was Michael Vick. So
right.
He's got a nice little tie in there to the Eagles, but a guy who's going to have so much opportunity this preseason. What about you for defense?
Well, Amy, I'm a big fan of the NFL draft, right? Journey to the Draft podcast. We cover college football all year round. That is a little bit of my shtick, right? So 2012, coming out of Tennessee, a defensive end, defensive tackle combo player, Malik Jackson, really caught my eye. He goes on to become one of the top interior disruptors in the entire NFL. This kid is athletic. He is urgent. He is violent. He's made plays in Denver, in Jacksonville. Now he's here in Philadelphia lining up next to Fletcher Cox. I cannot wait to watch Malik Jackson, whether it's this summer or just get going here in the fall next to Fletcher. The Eagles in the past have lined up an extra defensive end on passing downs next to Fletcher. I don't think that's going to be necessary when you've got a guy like Malik Jackson there to take some of that attention away from number 91.
Yeah, and a veteran guy, 110 career games played, 32 sacks in that time. Like you said, he's bounced around a lot, but coming off a great year as well. And we've heard so much about just his electricity there on the inside, just the strength that he has. And, listening to him on Dave Spadero's podcast, he's just a really cool guy. He's so excited to be in Philadelphia. He's really embraced the culture here. So I know he's just as excited to be in Philadelphia as the Eagles are to have him. I think this defensive line is going to be ridiculous, and it just always seems like that's the story here in Philadelphia, especially with the Jim Schwartz defense. Of course, we know the Eagles have been taking the field, so let's take a look at what's going on over at Lincoln Financial Field. We're here in the studio, but we know that the Eagles are on the field. The fans are starting to filter in. Here we go. Wendell Smallwood in the end zone. He's going to have some opportunity in a very crowded running back room.
Yeah, a lot of running backs on this roster right now, and Wendell Bell is a guy that, look, he's been a really reliable backup for the Eagles over the last few years. Now he's going to be here trying to battle for a job. He's one of those guys that has been in the league for 4 years. He's got the ability to come in and compete for the back end of that running back job.
There we go. Big Andre Dillard ready to make his first NFL appearance in the preseason. He's going to have some opportunity to show that he was worth that first pick.
Yeah, I think ultimately with all these young guys, right, all these rookies playing in their first game, you're going to have some seasoned vets. You've got the Nate Sudfelds of the world, the guys that have been around the block a little bit. But for these rookies, college is a whole different animal compared to the NFL. They've gotten a little bit of a taste of it, right? You had mini camps back in the spring, then you go up a level for training camp. Well, this is a whole new world now that you get to the preseason game. So this is going to be a really nice tune-up for Miles Sanders, Andre Dillard, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the rest of that rookie class. It's going to be very, very interesting to watch all those guys and how they react here tonight.
We got Fletcher Cox in the street clothes, but still breaking down the huddle. Love to see that from him. Still very active, even though he hasn't been able to be a full participant this preseason.
Fletcher is, he's elite. He's an absolute monster in the middle. They know what they've got in Fletcher Cox. I don't think he's got anything to prove here.
Doesn't need to prove very much. A guy you really can't say enough good things about. Okay, here's some more running backs. They have a million of them, and they're all really talented. Jordan Howard is one guy who I am so excited to see. I loved him in Chicago. He won me a fantasy football championship. Thank you, Jordan. I can't wait to see what he does in a different offensive system like the Eagles have.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a taste of it last year with Matt Nagy. He obviously came from the same coaching tree with Doug Peterson, so some familiarity there in terms of the terminology and everything he'll be asked to do here in Philly. He'll be asked, look, just to be an early downs grinder and get a lot of those tough yards, those dirty yards in those short yardage and goal line situations, be a downhill between the tackles runner. If the Eagles can get into a kind of a thunder lightning situation there with him and Miles Sanders, that could be some exciting stuff for the Eagles offense.
And there you had Nate Sudfeld working with the offensive line that he's going to be working with. He has so much opportunity this preseason, a totally different role. Like we said, with Nick Foles gone, he's really stepping up into that backup role. And this is going to be really his preseason to kind of show what he's learned over the last training camp and going back to spring and even back to last fall.
Yeah, this is the first time where he goes into the season in this role, right? Because each of the past 2 seasons, he's ended the year as the number 2 guy. So now he's going to wrap up or go into a season with that moniker. It's going to be interesting. Look, last summer, he made some awesome throws in the preseason. So hoping he can build off that here. We're going to see plenty of Nate Sudfeld over the next few weeks.
Well, and he was just on the Dave Spadero's podcast as well. I was listening to it on my ride in this morning, and he talked about, hey, I know I'm pretty familiar with the playbook. It's just been a matter of getting those little extra nuances and just really building that confidence, knowing exactly where everybody is, taking it to the next level now that he's in year 3. And, of course, we are going to hear from the Eagles insider himself, Dave Spadero. He's got storylines. He's got players to watch. Let's go over to Dave Spadero right now. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thanks so much, guys. Look, I know everybody is going to be watching the football and where it goes and who has it, but I want to look at the edges at the line of scrimmage. I think this is really an important area for the Eagles to develop, obviously not only tonight, but throughout the preseason. So I want to see Andre Dillard at left tackle. I want to see Jordan Mailata at the right tackle position. They will get a lot of time tonight. And then on the defensive end side, Josh Sweat needs to step up in year 2. We hear all great things about him. Now it's time to get to the football. And 4th-round draft pick, Sharif Miller, for sure needs to step up and play tonight and show the Eagles that he can fill in if they need him at some point in this season. They need depth at defensive end. And then Deshaun Hall, somebody who impressed last year, he gets a shot to go again tonight. So I'm looking at the edges of the line of scrimmage. That's what's important to me in preseason game number 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Not where the ball goes, but what's happening in the trenches on the edges.
There you go, some positions to watch and some names to know from Dave Spadero. Young guys on the edges. Josh Sweat, one that I'm super intrigued with, the guy we heard a lot about this preseason. He has opportunity with some of the pass rushers gone. Is he going to step up in year 2? We're waiting to see if his production reaches that potential. What jumped out to you about what Dave said?
Well, really, I agree wholeheartedly with Dave that you look in the trenches, and that's really what the preseason games are all about. Because you go into McDonald's, you go into Wawa, you talk to your friends, you talk to your family. Everyone wants to know, how are these guys doing? How are these guys reacting in training camp? Well, it's tough to say with running backs and defensive linemen and offensive linemen until the live hitting starts. Only a couple days, a couple of periods here and there where they're tackling to the ground. Well, now that they're able to have this live action under the lights, now we can really evaluate those trench players and those running backs.
All right, we've got our preseason players to watch. We've got Dave Spadero's players to watch. We are not the only cast members on this show. We've got Merrill Reese and Mike Quick with their players to watch. Check it out.
Number 1, we're back in the saddle again. Great to be with you. And Mike, who is your player to watch on this first game of the preseason?
Well, I'm going to focus on that number 7. I think we're going to see a lot of Nate Sudfeld, and I want to see a lot of Nate Sudfeld in the preseason. Tonight, he is my player to watch, and probably throughout the preseason. You?
The guy I'm watching tonight, and of course I'm watching Nate Sudfeld because you need that backup quarterback in any kind of an emergency, and we know what Nick Foles meant to this team the last 2 years. But my guy is wearing number 26, and that's the running back out of Penn State, Miles Sanders. Some people are saying the most exciting running back to wear an Eagles uniform since Shady McCoy. That's high praise. We'll see, but keep an eye on him tonight.
That's a lot of big shoes to fill.
Okay, back to you, Amy.
Oh, God bless Merrill Reese. The excitement, it's just adorable. It's so great. How can you not love him? How can you not feel what he's feeling? Fran, you and Mike have a little something in common there, picking Miles Sanders.
Well, it's not that surprising that, that Merrill Reese, I know Merrill. He's a Temple grad through and through. But ultimately, when you look at Merrill, his favorite players are always the Penn State guys.
So true.
Not surprising at all that he would go with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, not surprised at all. I was actually going to pick Miles Sanders, but I knew that it was going to be a popular pick, so I wanted to mix it up a little bit and come up with something
veteran move.
A bit more creative. And, of course, Nate Sudfeld, the guy that we're really looking forward to seeing. Let's hear from the head coach. Our Eagles preseason analyst, Ross Tucker, joined Doug Peterson before the game to see what is he looking to see from his guys tonight. Here's Ross with head coach Doug Peterson.
With Eagles head coach Doug Peterson. Doug, you've had a good camp so far. What are some of the factors that go into deciding how much playing time to give the guys here in week 1?
Yeah, it's always a struggle. The first game, you want to get possibly the starters an opportunity to get in there and kind of get the taste of game activity, but at the same time, we're still evaluating a lot of our situational, our role players, some backup guys that can really help us during the regular season. So it's a fine line that we have to, sort of, we cross it, we go right up to it, and then we make a decision just how much these guys are going to play. And but for me, I'm excited about looking at everybody and getting everybody an opportunity in this football game to really showcase their talent and see what they can do for us.
What about Nate Sudfeld? What are you looking for him from tonight?
With Nate, I just want to see him execute our offense, command the huddle, take care of the football, do the things that we know he's capable of doing, what we've seen him in practice do. He doesn't have to go out there and look for plays. Plays will come to him, and when they do, just ask him to make those plays. So, it'll be good for him. This will be a great kind of a 4-week stretch of games, and looking forward to tonight.
What about elsewhere on the team? What else are you going to be looking for from your guys tonight?
So really, if I look at the roster, I think there's a couple of spots. I'm interested in Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones at the corner spot. Tonight, Sidney, who's kind of missed some time his first couple of seasons and really coming out now. He's playing with a lot of confidence. Rasul just kind of picking up where he left off and really kind of taking his game to another level this season. So I'm excited about that. And looking at Malik Jackson mixing in with our defensive line and seeing him in live action now and against another offensive line and see where he's at. I'm excited about our young running backs too, with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders and Jordan's played a lot of games in this league and still a young player, but really interested in seeing how he does. And then really, I think up front with the offensive line, our first-round pick, Dillard, Andre Dillard. I'm excited about his opportunity. Try to get him in the football game where he can go up against a starting caliber defensive end or outside linebacker and just see where he's at, in the first 2 weeks of camp.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Great stuff there from Ross, and really interesting stuff there from head coach Doug Peterson, talking about how he's going to give everybody an opportunity and they're going to be evaluating everyone. Of course, we're not going to be seeing a lot of the starters because what is there to evaluate on some of these guys that are known? But a lot of guys, this is a really big audition for them, a job interview. Their livelihood is on the line. What jumped out to you from what Doug had to say about some of the specifics that he kind of got into the specifics about what he was going to be evaluating tonight? It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I thought, to your point, it's not just an evaluation for the Eagles, but it's an evaluation for those guys for the other 31 teams. All those guys on the bottom of the roster are auditioning for jobs with every team in the NFL with what they put on film tonight. But I thought that it was most interesting that he brought up the corners. You look at Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones, two young guys that have had great camps so far. They've been outstanding, making plays every single day in coverage, whether it's in one-on-one drills or team periods. Ultimately, I look at those two guys as having some of the best camps of anybody on the roster. So for Doug to single those guys out as guys he wants to see kind of show up in the game. I'm excited to see how they respond.
Yeah, 10 cornerbacks in that room. A lot of competition there. We're going to be right back on the other side of this break. We are going to be exclusively on PhiladelphiaEagles.com and the Eagles app, so catch us right there. But on the other side of the break, we have an exclusive interview with Zach Ertz and our own Molly Sullivan, so be sure to stick with us just after this break.